Propaganda films. I love them, you love them, we all love them, because we don't have a choice. Propaganda films are everywhere around us, and it can be argued to what degree each film, or really anything we see, propaganda can manifest itself in books, clothing, food, toilet paper, but everything can be biased to some point, or try to propagate something to some point. So today I want to talk about two films that do this very well in my opinion. And I've decided to introduce it like I saw most online video essays being introduced, so please enjoy.
Versus Captain America. Propaganda.
First propaganda film is Battleship Potemkin. This movie starts off with a protest of the crew of a ship conveniently named Potemkin because they were forced to eat gone-off meat. This leads to a full-on riot by Valunkuchuk, in which they kill all of the leading officers and take over the boat. Valunkuchuk is killed, and when the ship returns to the port of Odessa, they honor him as a symbol of the revolution. This is interrupted by a bunch of Tsar's troops, who kill a bunch of civilians, and then finally the Potemkin saves them, but then they are confronted with another bunch of Tsar's battleships, who instead of doing their initial mission of coming to destroy them, they raise the revolutionary red flag, and everyone is happy. By the way, that red flag had to be hand-tinted for 108 frames, which is... feels bad, whoever had to do that. So Battleship Potemkin is actually based off a real-life event. It's Bloody Sunday in Russia and the mutiny of Battleship Potemkin. Though these happened at different times, they merged it together, and Eisenstein did it beautifully.
Nice.
So the mutiny of Battleship Potemkin happened on the 14th of June, 1905, which is a really big part of getting the Tsar to sign Roosevelt's peace treaty with Japan and Russia in the Russo-Japanese War. And the second is the 1905 Russian Revolution, or one of the many Bloody Sundays. This was on the 22nd of January in 1905 again, and this was not a very fun event. One priest, Father Gabon, went to the Tsar's house to ask politely for more freedom and better working condition, but once the Tsar heard that there was going to be people coming to his house, he left, and left behind a lot of troops, which killed over 200 people and injured over 1,000. But single-party states, pretty cool, right?
Nice.
And by the way, this was quite normal for Tsar Nicholas II. He did this quite often after this. The second movie or movies are the Captain America franchise. So Captain America is just a skinny Brooklyn boy who's always wanted to do the right thing and wants to join the army in World War II. He's seen by a German scientist and then is converted into a super soldier because he has a good heart. And then he goes and he kills all the Nazis and takes over Hydra, but is left in the Arctic and is supposedly dead. But then he comes back after he's found 90 years later, and he comes back into our world and has to deal with the challenges of getting Hydra out of S.H.I.E.L.D. and then the challenges of Civil War, which was how to check the Avengers. The first Avenger is very, 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 very loosely based off World War II, where there's a man named Hitler who was ashamed because his country lost in World War I and blamed it on the Jews and the Poles, and decided to take over Europe, and then he went into Poland and then made France and Britain very scared. France got defeated because they were slow, and Russia was preparing, and then Germany tore through the whole of Europe until Japan bombed Pearl Harbor, and then Hitler declared war on America, and then America came over, and they pushed him all the way back into Berlin. The rest of the movies are based off the comics, very, very, very loosely. Again, in the comics, it's a whole different argument that they're having, but the MCU twists it in a way that's more appropriate for the world that we live in today. So these two films, we can both recognize are propaganda films, but we have to look at what they're propagating. Battleship Potemkin is pretty easy. It's pretty black and white. It's made in 1925 by the Soviet government and Sergei Eisenstein to show the horrors of the Tsarist era, as well as to propagate communist ideas. It's actually really good. If you guys haven't seen it, I would recommend seeing it. And Captain America is a bit harder. You can see the first one, the first Avenger, is rather black and white. You know, it's the Americans versus the Nazis. It's capitalism versus fascism. It's good guys versus bad guys. Good guys are in white or brighter colors, and bad guys are in black and look very menacing. But then when you move on to the Winter Soldier and Civil War, you get this idea of what is freedom. And that's the central idea of Captain America. Because Captain America is, at his heart, a good guy that values morals over allegiance, believes all people should be free, trusts individuals over institutions, and is against authoritarianism. Especially in Captain America Civil War, the contrast between utilitarianism and deontology is very interesting and is very prominent in our modern world. This fight really represents Cap's morals as seen in this scene.
By holding a gun to everyone on Earth and calling it protection.
This scene highlights the difference between the propaganda in Battleship Potemkin and the propaganda in the modern day era. We can see that in the era of Battleship Potemkin, propaganda was clear. We all knew what we were being told when we were watching a movie. But when you look at Captain America, especially his latter movies post the first one, because the first one was also rather black and white, but you're starting to see that Captain America is really not the best hero. Because if you want real change in the world, if you want real help to come to everyone, which is utilitarianism, then you would do what Hydra was doing, or you would do what Tony Stark were doing, or even to some extent you would do what the Red Skull was doing, which is you have to sacrifice a bit, but afterwards it will be a better place. Essentially, what it boils down to is, taking in Civil War context, Battleship Potemkin is fighting for Tony Stark. They're fighting for everyone to maximize utility, for everyone to be happy, and for everyone to have the best life possible. Whereas Captain America is fighting for what is good and what is bad, and is using his morals to derive all of his decisions. To understand this contrast between old and new propaganda, let's first start off with the old propaganda. Given the example of this scene here, we can first start off with the triumphant symphony in the background that's boosting on this magnificent giant set with an uncountable amount of people to really just reinforce this harmony and reinforce this unity that the workers of Russia now feel when they are being oppressed. In this next scene, when the delegate from ashore comes along the Battleship Potemkin, we can really feel the sense of unity and the sense of disseminating the social classes, which was Eisenstein's intention. This is extremely portrayed in his speech, where the soldiers looking at him seem relaxed. They seem like they're one of them. They're not looking up to something, some sort of a deity. This is a Russian population that is united and wanting to work together for maximum utility. Let's now contrast this black and white propaganda to the more colorful and bit more complicated and confusing propaganda presented in the Captain America franchise. Let's take a look at this clip from the Sokovia Accords debate from Captain America Civil War.
There's no decision-making process here. We need to be put in check. Whatever form that takes, I'm game. If we can't accept limitations, we're boundaryless, we're no better than the bad guys.
Tony, if someone dies on your watch, you don't give up.
Who said we're giving up?
We are for not taking responsibility for our actions. This document just shifts the blame.
I'm sorry, Steve, that is dangerously arrogant. This is the United Nations we're talking about. It's not the World Security Council. It's not SHIELD. It's not Hydra.
No, but it's run by people with agendas, and agendas change.
That's good. That's why I'm here. When I realized what my weapons were capable of in the wrong hands, I shut it down, stopped manufacturing.
Tony, you chose to do that. If we sign this, we surrender our right to choose. What if this panel sends us somewhere we don't think we should go? What if there's somewhere we need to go and they don't let us? We may not be perfect, but the safest hands are still our own.
If we don't do this now, it's gonna be done to us later. That's the fact. That won't be pretty.
You're saying they'll come for me.
So this scene really brings out some very important things with Tony Stark's utilitarianism, which relates to an extent Eisenstein's revolutionary ideas, which are the more realistic and some could argue more moral approach of politics, setting a set of rules and regulations and ensuring the maximum utility for everybody. With the way the world is working now, towards globalism, towards authoritarianism, and towards more socialist ideas, this makes sense. Tony Stark's ideas make sense. But not to Disney. This doesn't help Disney. So Marvel uses this brilliant bit of dialogue and their star boy, Captain America, to contrast conservative libertarian ideologies said from the heart of a poor, skinny Brooklyn kid, which is really Disney's target audience, with liberal progressiveness from our rich billionaire assholes. So ultimately, they use Captain America to promote these things so that there'll be less rules, less regulations, so that Disney can continue having a monopoly and protect their bottom line. And this is further evident in their reinforcement of this in Captain America's freedom speech in Winter Soldier.
They almost have what they want. Absolute control.
They shot Nick Fury. And it won't end there. If you launch those helicarriers today, Hydra will be able to kill anyone that stands in their way. Unless we stop them. And I know I'm asking a lot. But the price of freedom is high. It always has been. And it's a price I'm willing to pay. And if I'm the only one, then so be it. But I'm willing to bet I'm not.
This clip shows a corrupt politician, and then Captain America says, fight for your freedom. Okay, I'm done. I think I got all the criteria. Boom, boom, boom. Good enough. Okay, bye-bye.